Okay, we are Team 15. I'm Drew Harris.
I'm Farah Borhan.
And I'm Haziq Rahman.
And we're here today to discuss the Gilbane gold case. Okay, so just to give a brief summary of the case. This case is set in the town of Gilbane. And Gilbane is a town that has attracted a lot of businesses in recent years through various methods of incentivization. And one of those businesses, or companies rather, that was attracted is Z Corp. Z Corp is a company that manufactures computer components, and that process of method of manufacturing involves the disposal, it necessitates rather, the disposal of a lot of heavy metals. And Z Corp disposes these heavy metals through wastewater. This is particularly of interest in this case because the town of Gilbane itself sets restrictions, very strict restrictions, much more strict than federal standards on the concentration of toxic materials such as heavy metals that can be released through wastewater. These restrictions are in place because the town of Gilbane sells their sewage sludge as fertilizer, and if that fertilizer were to contain too high concentration of toxic materials, it would not be safe to use. So that's something the town of Gilbane relies on, and therefore they have these restrictions in place. So Z Corp itself, because of these restrictions, is required to administer a test, a specific test, that the town of Gilbane has chosen in order to test the concentration of toxic materials in their water. And what Z Corp is looking for in particular is heavy metals, because that's what they're releasing. So this test, Z Corp has performed the test, and it shows that they are in fact in compliance with the standards. However, Z Corp has also administered, under the recommendation of Tom Richards, who is a contracted wastewater engineer, they've administered another concentration test, more advanced test. And the results of that test show that they are in fact not in compliance with the standards set by the town of Gilbane. So the dilemma comes in, because the Z Corp itself is not actually legally obligated to report results of the test, which they're not required to give. The conflict comes in whether or not they choose to report those results or report the other results that are safe. So David is an environmental engineer working at Z Corp, and he's kind of at the center of all this because this is what his job is centered around. David is pushing for them to inform the public because he thinks that the town and the people of the town deserve to know that their health may be at risk because of the pollution in the water. But Z Corp management is kind of taken a different stance on things because they're concerned with business development and they want their company to keep doing well, earning a good profit, and they're not legally obligated in any way to report those results. So that's kind of the framework of the dilemma set up, and one of the indicators of Z Corp's stance in particular is you can look at Tom Richards to find where they stand on things. And so Tom Richards, as I said before, was a wastewater engineer contracted by Z Corp, and he was kind of pushing for more and more testing that was going to cost them more money. Z Corp, because Tom was pushing so hard for these tests, Z Corp chose to just let him go because they were concerned with meeting their bottom line and making sure their business was doing well. So that's where Z Corp stands on things, and David kind of has this moral conflict of what he wants to do. And moving forward, the conflict is only getting more intense because coming down the pipeline is a merger for Z Corp that's set to increase their production 5-fold. And what Z Corp has done in the past to ensure that their concentration levels are within the limit is, rather than decreasing the actual amount of heavy metals released, they've simply increased the volume of water that they've released. So thereby ensuring that the concentration is within levels. Meanwhile, they're still, they're actually releasing a lot of heavy metals. So with this 5-fold increase in production, surely they could still increase the volume of water they're releasing and ensure that they're meeting the standards. However, they're most definitely going to be releasing a dangerous amount of heavy metals. So this kind of whole framework provides great opportunity for evaluating engineering ethics codes, And going forward, our team's going to do that, and we're also going to tell you kind of where we stand on things and what we think about this whole case.
So in this section, we are talking about the ASME Code of Ethics violated by Z Corp. And the first code violated is Code 1, which stated that all engineers must hold paramount of safety, health, and welfare of the public. So Z Corp is possibly endangering the public because the toxic materials released in the sewage plant is then used as fertilizers by the farmer, which is then possibly consumed by the public. And then next code of ethics violated is Code 8, which Z Corp fails to consider the impact of releasing a large amount of toxic waste towards the environment. This is proven by the fact that when they're trying to increase production by 5-fold, they didn't take into consideration the environmental impacts it has. And then the next code of ethics violated is Code 4, which stated that all the engineers shall avoid conflict of interest. This is shown by the higher-ups of Z Corp or the officials in Z Corp when they fired Tom Richards right after he addressed his concern about the level of toxic released by the factory. And then the final code of ethics violated by Z Corp is Code 7, which stated that all engineers shall issue public statements in an objective and truthful manner. By withholding the results from a newer and a more sensitive test, Z Corp fails to abide by this code of ethics.
The next is Team 15 perspective. The team decided to go on with option 7, and in option 7 it stated that David need to tell Phil and Diane that his professional integrity will no longer allow him to sign the discharge report to the city. He should make that statement without a self-righteous tone and in a non-confrontational manner as possible. He should probably make it clear that he will not try to go to public, and he will make every effort to continue be a loyal employee. He should also say that he may not be able to keep the problem inside the company because the city council has called him. He should emphasize that this problem is only getting worse for Z Corp because for the new production, it will increase the discharge of toxic material. Even if Z Corp able to fulfill the technical requirement by increasing the volume of discharge, but the public already know about the problem, so the law might change because of that. So David also should use all his power of persuasions to argue that firing him or refusing to address the problem will make matter worsen for Z Corp. So the team decided to continue with these options because it will transfer the burden not to David and the news reporter but to the Z Corp itself. And these options also balance self-preservation and public environmental safety.